Hare Hare Ram,
Krishna.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
I'll go ahead and start reading. Continuing to Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. So we are continuing to read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Without income or institutional shelter, Abhay began staying in various homes in Delhi, living from week to week wherever he received an invitation. In terms of food, clothing, and shelter, these were the most difficult he had ever gone through. Since his childhood, there had always been plenty of food and good clothes, and no question of where he would live. He had been the pet child of his father, and he had received special guidance and affection from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But now, Abhay sometimes felt alone. Homeless, he moved around Delhi from one temporary residence to another, a Vishnu temple, a room at the Kapoor College of Commerce. But he was seeking donors, preaching from Bhagavad Gita, writing. His goal wasn't to find a permanent residence, but to print his transcendental literature and to establish or join forces with a pure, powerful movement for spreading Krishna consciousness. Abhay made a list of several books he wanted to publish. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Hindi, 2000 pages, Gita Upanishad English, 1200, Science of Devotion English, 300, Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan Movement English, 300, Message of Godhead English, 300, Bhakti Bhagavaneer Katha Bengali, 50. But to print, he needed donors. He called on wealthy men in their offices and homes, presenting his manuscripts and explaining his mission. He had a list of donors, but few responded. And when he did receive donation, it was usually only 5 or 10 rupees. Occasionally, he would receive a letter of appreciation or endorsement. One appreciation came from Narain Das Rai Bahadur, a retired executive engineer and secretary of the Birla Mandir Trust, who had attended a public reading Abhay had held in the presence of a popular guru, Mother Anandamayi. Impressed by Abhay's reading from his Hindi Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mother Anandamayi had donated 50 rupees and suggested that Abhay also visit a well-known sadhu, Sri Hari Baba, who was lying ill in the hospital. Abhay, accompanied by Narayan Das, had then visited Hari Baba, who had claimed that Abhay's reading put him into ecstasy. Meanwhile, Narayan Das was becoming inclined to help, and in December he wrote a letter suggesting that everyone extend their helping hand for the successful publication of Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta's various writings in Hindi, English, and Bengali. I wish him all success in this noble attempt. Abhay would show this and such letters to prospective supporters. In Delhi, it was not difficult to see government ministers, judges, lawyers, business executives, religious heads. There was always someone willing to hear seriously and occasionally to offer support. Thus, Abhay, with the 2 dhotis and kurtas, thus Gaudiya Sangha had supplied him with his ability to preach and convince, but with little support and no fixed residence, continued his preaching undaunted. Writing and trying to publish was only half his effort. The other half was taking part in efforts for a world movement like the League of Devotees. Through Narayan Das, Abhay inquired whether there might be a way to do his work under the auspices of the Birla Mandir, one of the largest and richest temples in Delhi. Abhay proposed that he be put in charge of propaganda in the English language, both within India and abroad. Since Narayan Das considered himself a follower of Sanatana Dharma, Abhay wrote to him explaining the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, set forth the real Sanatana Dharma. Abhay had many ideas about how Sanatana Dharma, as the external religion for all living beings, could be expanded and practically applied if Narayan Das would help him. I want to train up 40 educated youths to learn the science of transcendental knowledge and just prepare them for going to foreign countries for missionary work. To start immediately an English paper or to revive my paper Back to Godhead in the style of Illustrated Weekly of India. To organize a Sankirtan party which shall not be only of good singers and musicians, but also must also be used to practice sadhana or self-realization. Abhay promised that as soon as he had done some groundwork, he, along with men and equipment, could start for foreign countries to propagate this missionary work. But he admitted also that he was externally in dire straits. Kindly do arrange for the above immediately and give me a proper place to live. I must remove from this temporary quarter by Monday next latest. The directors of the Birla Mandir did not take Abhay upon his offer, but he thought of another way of engaging them. He would hold a public meeting at the Birla Mandir to help generous in the League of Devotees. He approached Sri R.N. Agarwal, president of the Delhi Municipal Committee, who, after hearing the names of several respectable people who would be attending, agreed to preside over the meeting. Abhay set the date for December 22 and printed 500 announcements and 200 invitation cards. Striking a cosmopolitan note, he stated in his announcement, by the grace of the Almighty, Delhi is becoming the center of cultural association of the world. The leaders of both Russia and India had recently pointed to the need for cultural contact between all nations. But the highest culture, Abhay suggested, was scientific spiritual knowledge. Therefore, the best cultural resources in the world existed in India. And these resources, Abhay stressed, should not be left to the unorganized sadhus and sannyasis, but should be taken up by important members of society in an organized way. The December 22 Hindustan Times listed the meeting of the League of Devotees in the today's engagements column, along with announcement for meetings of the Rotary Club, the Tagore Society, the Indian Council of World Affairs, Bharat Scouts, and the Indian Pharmaceutical Congress. The League's meeting began with Kirtan, led by Professor H. Chand, and then A.C. Bhaktivedanta, founder and secretary of the League of Devotees, explained his movement's objectives. Then Naren Das spoke and afterwards read a number of proposed resolutions from the founder secretary, attesting that the persons present supported the League of Devotees, and they recommended that the central government of India also support it as a movement for world peace on Gandhian principles. After adoption of the resolutions, the meeting closed with another kirtan and prasadam. Abhay was convinced that if his well-wishers and fellow humanitarians would support him on a grand scale, he could create a movement for world peace based on the principles of devotional service to Lord Krishna. But his role was to simply to present Krishna consciousness to whomever he could. The results were up to Krishna. Abhay was aware that the intentions of most of the participants in his Birla Mandir would not go past that one meeting, but he wasn't discouraged. Through all his tireless evangelism, he maintained a philosophical jollity. In one sense, he was already fully satisfied. He was happy to be working on behalf of his spiritual master. Although he was changing addresses so fast that his mail could hardly catch up to him, he wrote a newspaper ad for a home study course. Hare Krishna. So I was just thinking, like reading through all of these, right? Srila Prabhupada is definitely, you know how it is mentioned, right? Srila Prabhupada is Lord Chaitanya's messenger that has come on this world to propagate Krishna consciousness. It is so true. Like, think about this. I mean, this is like how many years ago, right? But Prabhupada, how clearly he has the strategy about how he wants to establish this Krishna consciousness movement. Because although he's following his spiritual master's advice, if you get money, print books. See, all along we can see how he's continuously focusing on that. Like, how do I do this? A list of books that is said, you know, that he needs like a list of books, and he's doing all the work, translating, doing all of that, and making sure that all of these literature is available to the common man. So it's just beautiful to see how Prabhupada, sticking to the spiritual master's order, very strategically he's planning on how to do it, and it's so much challenge though. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, look at the resilience, how much challenge he's having, and he is a person who came from such a well-to-do family. Everything was there, and he left everything because of this focus of how he wants to follow the spiritual master's order and spread Krishna consciousness movement. So just so much to learn. Like, we so easily we give up, like, even what effort even we do we make even to spread Krishna consciousness movement. And even in there, like, with the simple assignments or things we get to present class or things like that, we get like all angst up and things like that. I'm just saying. But look at Srila Prabhupada, like, it's so much to learn from how Prabhupada led his life by example, for all of us to follow. So